co-sponsor those bills, maybe write letters of joint congressional, we call them the member letters that they typically do, dear colleague letters that they do. So we'll also have them sign on, and that's both sides. We, with the House and Senate. And I will say on the veterans, we've been involved with NACO staff as well in terms of, the bigger you build your army, you can fight some of these battles. So we've been involved with them, and we will continue to work with them on this. And I think we talk about the Soldiers to Act program, and then Impact Aid is something we have our eyes on from the education standpoint as well. And then mental health, just overall, we've heard, and I think when you look at mental health, there were some opportunities to really increase the funding on the federal side for mental health. I think you may see a couple of years there have been increases, but again, as I go across the nation talking with folks, there's not a meeting I haven't been in the last 3 months where mental health does not come up. So they understand in Washington that it's a major need and something that we will need further investment in. So I say all that to say we will look where the connects are for these things, and as they come up in opportunities, make sure that the staff is aware that you're aware of those, and whether it means advising or strategizing along those grant applications and getting congressional support for the related grant applications or increased formula funding, we will work on those things. And then again, the continuation of health and human services, which is a critical responsibility for the county. The Medicaid and I'll highlight that one, the Medicaid for the incarcerated, again, I've been in different counties last couple of months. That's come up too, so there's a national effort to deal with that issue. I will expect that to go on into the next session of Congress as well. And as I look at all these other things, affordable child care, major, again, that's something that, I think a lot of people are in favor of that, but it's, where do you get the money from to do that, and how do we do it, at least on the federal level? There were proposals for a tremendous amount of money for affordable child care. Didn't necessarily come to pass, but I think that's an issue that will be revisited because of the impact it has on quality of life and, really the ability of parents to care for their children. I'll go back to farmers market as well. That's, again, there's such an issue on healthy eating, especially in communities that are underserved. So that, again, I think I've seen through USDA, and that's U.S. Department of Agriculture, don't want to get into all the acronyms. I've seen, investments and programs that have been developed to deal with this. And we've dealt with this issue for other clients as well, so we'll look forward to advancing that. And I think the ex-offender reentry program is big. That's through the Department of Labor. Labor runs their grants. They pretty consistently will run their grants. So again, the grant program would be critical, but I would say that's one that's really on the top of mind when you talk about employment, workforce development, and training. We will continue to look at the housing issue. We talk quite a bit about the homelessness. We know that it's a major issue. And Deb and I were talking on the way down. We said affordable housing and homelessness, they're not strangers anywhere. It seems to be in every community at this point. But we know here with the military it's really critical to try to deal with that issue. And I think affordable housing from the federal level, there will be programs that will be funded, but the way they really want to attack affordable housing, we probably need to think about this, is they really want to see the public-private partnerships. So yeah, the feds will pay into it, but how's it work with the developers? What are your zoning laws? How are you handling those kinds of things? So it's really multi-pronged. It's not just get us money for the housing, but basically, if you really want to have an impact, you've got to have partners in that. So that is what they want to hear. And I can tell you, I've participated on a lot of housing calls with HUD and their staff, always interested in having people come in to talk with them. And they really look for the innovative kind of things as well to highlight. So that'll be important. And I know, of course, to push this agenda, you will need to come to Washington, talk to the congressional delegation. But not just that, you want to go into these agencies as well and tell them what you're doing. And what I find through that, sometimes you become a resource to them. So I think that is a critical part of this service that we'll continue to offer too. And then when you get into homelessness, It's the support services, but it's also how building the facilities. I know you're working, on the shelter now. It's something that we had talked to. We have people that we work with at HUD had mentioned that, hey, Cumberland County is working on this project, and they quickly want to know, well, let me know where they are and how we can help. So we want to make sure we leverage our contacts there to the point that they know what you're doing and perhaps can lead us into resources, whether it's more federal funding or sometimes they have ideas about partners who may want to come in based on the best practices that they see from other communities around the nation. And with housing, it's not just the roof. It's the things that come along, the services that are really critical, I think, to families and to children and to working adults and parents. And then the other is a quality of life issue. As part of work in regard to your museums and your libraries, and one of the things that has popped up has been the social work professionals in the library. So we will be looking for, funding for that. What we see here are these bullet points, but behind that, there is detail that's hashed out that we will need, whether it's to match it to the right grant or to match it to an appropriations opportunity. And then the Children's Science Museum, that's something, there's quite a bit of funding for libraries and museums that have what you call the Institute of Museum and Library Services. So which grants federal dollars for the development expansion of museums and libraries. So that would be, and we work with them over the years, great people to work with. They're almost like, how can we give you the money? Bring us the ideas. So did you hear that? So they're wonderful people to work with, and they are about how can we get the resources out so that we see a difference in these communities. So that's one we're really excited, we'll be excited to work on. Did I skip one? And public safety, and we've enjoyed working with, with the staff as well as with the Sheriff's Department. And I just want to highlight the first one on the list. There is some money pending in Congress right now. As you know, the appropriations bills, the annual spending bills, have not been finalized yet. So they're on hold. We expected that to be done in the lame duck, hopefully. What I will say is that for Cumberland County, there is $2.47 million of congressional directed spending for this project that's pending now. So we were really happy with that. That was supported by Senators Byrd and Senator Tillis. And the other move this project, and Sally, we'll tell her to do certain things we think will work, and she goes and she gets it done. And that was to bring in, I think, the schools, and we had some other folks that offered letters of support. So it's always important, I think, for the congressional to hear from who are your partners in this, who are really the stakeholders and that are going to support what you're trying to do. So that project we're excited about, fingers crossed that, they get this across the finish line. But we were very excited about that. And the other thing, too, we did work with the Sheriff's Office and staff here on the Barty Warren camera grant. We appreciate the opportunity to sort of go through that, to review it, but also to have the congressional delegation support that. That was $700,000 that came in, I think, in December of 2021. So, again, we're always looking at these opportunities, how we can help get the money back to you. I think the 911 emergency operations has come up as something that really needs to be a top priority under public safety. So, we'll be looking at certainly federal resources that would support this, and all the other things here on the list as well, too. And I didn't want to read through all because I know I'm keeping time here, but the bottom line is all the things you see on this list are things that we will go back to make the connection. Sometimes we can't find the funding, but, we can be maybe creative in terms of creating something that will fund it. Go ahead. Okay. So that's the end part of the presentation. What I will say, too, in terms of dealing the way we do this, work with your staff, we put this draft together for your consideration. Once it's approved, then there will be additional documents that we'll need in Washington. And then this will need a trip associated with it, a trip to Washington to walk the halls and to talk to our members about this, as well as agencies. So there'll be targeted agencies that we will select that we think they're the greatest opportunities to advance some of these. And we really want to be strategic and targeted. You can't do everything all the time, but where are the places for the greatest level of success? And that's what we'll do. And let me just say this. This doesn't include just the things that are on this list that we work on. If there are other things that come up, I think Sally had something for us when we walked in the door. We're ready to work on those things too. So don't ever think, well, it's not on the list. Better not call the Ham Consulting Group and ask because it's not on the list. No, if you remotely think it has a federal nexus or you think we can help you with, and this is the last thing I'll say before I take questions, is that we were happy to have the opportunity to review even the state grants that you put in for water infrastructure. We were able to do that and send comments back, but also I had a chance to work with or at least collaborate with the consultant that you hired. So Sally was able to get me the phone number. So I was able to call because I had some questions based on what was in there. Although, these are federal dollars coming through the state, you want to still make sure that if you see the federal piece, to make sure you're addressing those things. So we appreciate the opportunity to do that too. So with that, Debbie or Leslie, did I leave out anything? Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah. But I will tell you this, and Sally, thank you, and thank you for the Ham Group being able to do this. I think it's what we've gotten this past year in terms of support, not only on this, but on the NACO with the ARP funding and you all being in there to help us guide through some of that. We appreciate that, and thank you. And I think even when we were talking to the Tillis group yesterday, Senator Tillis's group, to Sally's benefit and to you all, is that they like the way we do this, that we're about one of the few counties that do it this way. We're ahead of the ball game. We were in D.C. Senator Tillis came into the breakfast and was carrying our chart and told everybody in the room, all the commissioners that were there from all over the state of North Carolina, that this is the way it should be done. So hats off, Sally. Thank you so much, manager, and to the group for being able to do that. And, I always say that I should get more money than I'm paying out. So I'll look at the budget and see how much y'all brought me and how much I left.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a good ROI.
If I can get a motion to approve this federal legislation agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? All right. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
And, we understand you got to get back to D.C. to get us some more money. So you're always free to go. That takes us to the Cumberland County Schools update. I'd like to recognize we've got the chairman of the school board here, Mr. Greg West, and I see Ms. Chisholm, who is with on the school board also. Welcome, and I'll go to the manager because I don't know who's presenting this morning, but our friends are back again.
Yes,
now
sir.
the manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There have been some staffing changes with the Board of Education, and so we met as a staff, and we thought this would be a good opportunity for the board to meet the new staff members and to get some key information. So first of all, I want to introduce Jay Tolan. He is the Associate Superintendent of Business Operations. He took Clyde Locklear's place. Many of you remember Clyde. And then we also have Kevin Coleman with us. He's the Associate Superintendent of Auxiliary Services. And as you may recall, Joe DeZormo retired at the end of the year. So we've had an opportunity to engage. They wanted to prepare a presentation that may answer some of the questions that the board has had over a period of time. So welcome, Jay and Kevin.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. So, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
More than that afternoon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Long time no see. Chairman, commissioners, thank you once again. Ms. Camp, thank you for that wonderful introduction. We wanted to, just like she said, we wanted to introduce ourselves. I was previously with the city for 5 years. I've been with the school board for 2 months, and before that, I was with Scotland County Schools as their CFO for 6 years. So I look forward to continuing this process and presenting this data to you. I think one of the first things that needs to be acknowledged is when I was researching for this presentation, I came across the Public School Forum. And they issue a report every year that talks about the relative effort that counties give their school districts. And so it's important to note that Cumberland County is the top 15th in the state with the relative effort. And so what that means is that report looks at the ability to pay and how much they fund the school. So I think that needs to be acknowledged before we get into this.
You're in the top 15?
You're the 15th, yes. So,
And how many are there?
but there's 100 counties, so they look at all the counties.
Well, some of them have, even some of those have
Well,
dual
in
system.
that study, they combine the city district and the
Okay.
county that they're at.
So we're number 15 out of 100.
Yep. Okay, so basically our agenda kind of went through the introduction. We're going to talk a little bit about fund balance. We'll give a real high-level ESSER summary. Then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Coleman to look over capital outlay, new school costs, and next steps. Also, too, I wanted to, with part of the introduction, I want to put this slide up there to kind of show a summary of the ADM for the school districts. This is the average daily membership or the attendance or the enrollment at our schools. You can see that since 2012-13, it's dropped about a little over 3,000 students.
Is that saying that we lost $1,225 cents from 2021 to this year? That last number?
This is year over year.
Yeah, down
So
at the bottom. And so that's,
This is year over year.
That's
So
the change.
total, if you total this, it comes out a little bit over 3,000.
gotcha. Okay. That makes a whole lot more sense, because I didn't think okay, that makes a whole lot more sense, because it looks like we lost
Quick
that
question.
amount. Okay, so that's good. Quick question. Yes, sir.
Yes, let me ask you this. You say you lost 3,000 students. Where you losing?
We
Where did
lost-
you listen to?
Well, it's usually private schools and charter schools, because if you look at the population of the county and the city, it's remained flat over this time period. So it's the basic competition to public schools is where we're losing them to.
So our students at our schools is dwindling because they're going to private schools
Or charter schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, homeschool. Okay.
Homeschool's going to
Thank you.
virtual school.
Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about fund balance. The last audited financials we have is from fiscal year end 21, and so within that, within those audited financials, we had a restricted fund balance of 42.1 million and an unrestricted of 27 million. So as you know, the unrestricted is kind of the money that we can allocate to whatever projects we may need, and then within that restricted, there was a little bit over $8 million restricted funds by general statute. In capital outlay for the same
Wait a
time.
minute, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
But two didn't make sense. Included in restricted, but not unrestricted. That's the 8 million used for balance. But what's included in restricted, but not unrestricted?
Okay, so if you take this 8.1, this 3 million is 3.1, plus the unrestricted, you get to the 42.
Right. Oh, okay, so that's,
42, so I was showing the difference
okay.
between, what is restricted?
Right.
So you got 27 million unrestricted, you add the $8 million to balance the budget, you add $3 million for state
And that's how you get-
and 3.1 million for risk management, then you get to the 42, which is the total amount.
gotcha. So the 27,000 is the fund balance.
27 million is
27
unrestricted.
million. Unrestricted in the fund
Unrestricted,
balance.
yes, sir.
In the fund balance, okay.
And then, so that's a fiscal year end 21. And then for capital outlay, we had 3.2 million, that's all unrestricted. And then special revenue, so we have a special fund for all of our grants and flow through things, and that's all restricted, that's 3.7 million. So when we look to fiscal year end 22, which is the previous year, I'm projecting the unrestricted to remain flat at 28 million, and the capital outlay will remain flat as well.
Which means it could be used for any project. It's a one-time cost, though. You don't want to do ongoing for that fund balance.
That's right, yeah, because
okay.
it can be problematic, like if you
Right.
do staff and stuff. And remember, I don't have it in this slide, but our budget is a little bit over $600 million
Right, that's right.
with all state, federal, and local funds.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next slide I have, this is kind of all the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. ESSER 1, I don't think it expired September 30th, so I don't have it included here, but I just wanted to show that slide is next. So currently, we have a budget of $197 million in ESSER funds. We have so that's the total budget.
Right.
We have spent a little bit over 70 million, so we have 123 million remaining as we go to the end of, or to fiscal, to 9/30/2024, when all this ESSER money expires, whether we have to liquidate it or we'll have to turn it back over to the state.
That's what came in from the state for, because I know
Well,
colleges
y'all
and
call it
everybody
ARPA.
got their
So y'all
ARPA
call it,
funds.
Yep, so we
Right,
call it
that's
ESSER, y'all
kinda
call
like
it
ARPA
ARPA.
funds. We have the same issue too of trying
Yeah.
to make sure it fits within the state and the federal guidelines and everything. So I do understand why you still have that much remaining. So it's 123 remaining in the budget.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so one thing is, currently now we have $16 million annually that we have invested in new staff. And so one thing that we don't want to do, and when we look at our demographic of children, it's important that we remain consistent in the classroom. So we don't want to come to September 30th, 2024 and have to riff, $16 million worth of people. So we're looking at ways that we can save our fund balance over the next couple of years so that we can provide those services out past ESSER's expiration. So that's one thing I want to talk about here, the effects on fund balance, because we talk to Dr. Conley and we say, okay, we have a 2, 3, 4-year plan. And so if we can increase our fund balance over the next couple of years, then we can have a 3 or 4-year plan with these $16 million of new staff that we've added. Because like we said, once this is gone, it's gone, and then we will have to remove that staff because without additional revenue.
Right, so you don't really want to use those ERSA. Reoccurring, it's going to run out at some point, and so it's got to be picked up somewhere.
That's
so,
right.
Those ERSA funds and that fund balance, you got to be careful so that it's not reoccurring. I mean, that's, even as you do the 3 to 4 year plan, you don't want to, you can only go out that far because otherwise someone has to pick it up.
That's exactly right. And so if we can, and if we get to a point where we can reduce the positions with attrition, I think that would be beneficial. And then this is just a summary of all the different pots of ESSER funds that we have. You see the total 197 here. And then before I leave, I wanted to talk about, we have some, like I said, we do have some pressing issues. We still have a large compression within our staff. That's an opportunity that we have. We have the funding cliff that we talked about. And we're also, so not only with the wage compression where the state mandated that all of our employees move to $15 an hour, so we have some compression there, but we also have what I call market compression. And I'm sure you all are facing the same thing. IT, even our teacher supplements are kind of low in the area and statewide. And then also too, you saw I showed the ADM, and as you all know, most of our state funding is allocated by ADM. DPI held us harmless, or the state held us harmless over the past couple of years. Well, this year they're not going to hold us harmless. So we're going to have kind of a small bill to pay because they're going to make us realize the ADM reduction we've had over the last couple of years. So I would be remiss if I didn't offer that up.
They're not asking you to pay it back. They're just going to doing it at what the real number is.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
But we haven't built that in, we'll have to go in and cut it, and then you have to supplant it with fund balance usually the first year to remain that consistency.
Right. Okay.
So with
But
that,
we knew that was coming, though.
yeah, we did,
Yeah.
but, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Okay, thanks for letting me come present to you today. Again, my name's Kevin Coleman. Just real briefly, I was born in Cumberland County. I've worked at Cumberland County Schools for 24 years in different capacities. I've been a teacher. I've been a principal at Ponderosa Elementary, Lewis Chapel Middle School. For the last 12 years, I've been the chief technical officer for the school system, moving into this role just a few months ago. So that's just about me. I'm a Fayetteville guy. So thanks for letting me come in. And
Well, where'd you go to high school?
Southview.
Southview, okay.
I went to Southview. I went to Southview.
I'll look at the funding and see how I'm only joking.
I'm Smith.
I'm only
I'm
joking.
Smith. Did I say Smith? Southview, I'm sorry. I wanted to come together. I'm not going to present anything new to you today, so I'm going to apologize for redundancy if you saw this with Joe Desiremore when he presented it to you before, but I wanted to bring it in through a new set of eyes and kind of bring it forward to you and answer questions you might have. When we take a look at our priorities, this is actually how we go about prioritizing our list of needs when it comes to capital projects. We've got performance at 15%, and that's based on annual performance of students on standardized tests. The higher they go, the better their score and so forth. Capacity of each building. If a building holds 1,000 students and they're right at 1,000, they're scored high. If they go way over, way below, obviously points are deducted from that. And the lion's share you can see is our facilities condition index, which is we go in and we take 46 points that we look at each building and we grade our buildings from that, and that's how we come up with our priorities.
And on utilization, I would have to give you kudos because I think y'all looked at schools closed, some moved some students. which increased capacity at some of those. That was very good. That was on the utilization part. So
Yes, sir, thank you. We want to make sure we utilize the buildings we have before we go out and start looking others, so we want to make sure we're
That was very
taking care of that. This is just the front page, the first page. Again, you've seen this before, I think in the recent past. This is basically our, how we go through is the front page of our priorities as we went through. Red means bad, green means good. I mean, it's just as, I wanted to show you this just simply for you to see that the lower the number, the higher the score. We have sprinklings of green in here, so green possibly in like their performance ratings, but you can see that their facility ratings might be at the lowest. So it goes to show those three totals together are going to dictate what we do for our priorities. Now, one thing as I'm going into this, as I'm getting ready for this, I want to draw your attention to this column, to the Facilities Condition Index, because these conditions are based on life cycle at this point, going through and looking at life cycle of the building. And that's important, and it gives you a good estimate. But just because it's older doesn't mean it's in worse shape. Really, those set of windows right there might have been installed in 1980, but down the hall where there's sun beating down on windows that were installed in 1990, they might be in worse shape. So if we only look at when they were installed, our numbers might be skewed. I think it's important that we go in and we do a true assessment of our buildings so that when we make tough decisions, we're giving you good quality numbers based on good quality data. And so we're actually getting ready to go out to bid to do a facility master plan service. We're going to have a company come in and assess all 96 of our facilities and give us a good quality indicator and give us good quality software that we can keep up, again, with today's prices as well, because we don't want to start estimating prices these days because it's everywhere. So that's another major point. We want to go in and give you good, solid data as we move forward.
On the TC bearing that you have there, is that going to come out?
Yes, sir.
That's going to come out of,
Yes.
I know it's an old chart and you've inherited this, but that one's going to come out.
Yes, TC
Okay.
Varian will come out because we did close that down and turn it into office buildings. But again, I wanted to keep this the same because you've already seen it. This is what you've seen before. This was also presented to you before. Okay, so I want to talk about this. This is our 5-year capital improvement plan that was presented to you before by Mr. Desiremore. It addresses 23 of our schools, and we have a total of 87 schools. This is addressed 23. Some of them build us down and rebuild, and some of us combining buildings together, get more bang out of your buck and moving forward with that. So when we get done with our master facility plan, some of this may change. Some of the prioritization may change on here because numbers may change. What's not going to change is the need. The need is there for our facilities, and we're in great need for that. So I did want to point that out, that this could be this is going to be a fluid document that we're going to go in and make sure that we are giving you good quality data. And so I want to point out why, for instance, there's some schools, for instance, combined here. I'm going to go to the next slide.
And just for everybody, because we online and everything, these totals, because these are the ones Joe gave us,
Correct.
were old numbers.
Correct.
And
These are pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, that number. So these numbers are going to be low in comparison to when you do that consultant time.
That's correct. And
So I
that's
just
one
want to
reason.
throw that out to everybody, that those numbers are going to
I appreciate
really
that.
change.
They will change. And, once you get into a true plan with true software where you can do once a week, based on national standards of pricings, it could come up and down based on how it fluctuates versus us just taking a stab at it based on where it was before COVID. Again, this work is too important. These numbers are too large to give you estimates.
Right.
So we're going to work on giving good quality numbers through our school system, and that will allow the school board to make good quality decisions about prioritization, what we want to bring forward to you. Looking at this, again, estimated cost, this is approximately what an elementary, middle, and high school would cost now. I'll give you one example of why we would combine schools together. Take, for instance, Stedman Primary, Stedman Elementary. Those are two schools out east of the river. We did run the numbers based on what we have, and basically, Stedman Primary, in order to get it up to code, would be about $26 million for the freestanding building to get it up to code. Stedman Elementary is looking at about $19 million to equal $45 million. So at $45 million later, if we spent $45 million, we'll have two older schools that are up to code. Everything is fresh and good, but they are older schools. Or we can combine those two schools, tear those down, build one new school up for approximately $31 million. Not only do we have lower cost of approximately $14 million if these numbers were to stay the same, you're also going to have kids going to an updated school versus a very old school with fresh paint.
And we'll make it green, so it's going to be lower cost.
Make it green, there's so much better, you get more bang for your buck by doing that. So we're really looking forward to combining those where need be through the county and move forward with that. And so I just wanted to put a slide real quick. My job coming is we wanted to introduce ourselves today. This is for me moving forward. My goal to our school board and then ultimately to the county commissioners is to clarify a proposed capital improvement plan with clear prioritization based on need, based on good numbers, based on good quality data to you. Want to provide a comprehensive, detailed description of all needs throughout the systems, not just what's on the top of our priority list. Want to base all estimates on condition of equipment instead of just on life cycle. And then we want to update dollar amounts based on current pricing to give good quality data as we go into this hard work. So with that being said, that's to just give that. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so very much. Anybody have any questions? So thank you, Mr. Toller. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. And we'll look forward to when you bring those back. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. That takes us to consideration of agenda items. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is memorandum of understanding between the Cumberland County Public Library System and the City of Fayetteville, and this is for a story walk project at Lake Rim Park. And today we have with us our Library System Director, Ms. Faith Phillips. Welcome, Faith.
Not that tall. Here we go.
Janelle up there, look at it.
It is. You might recognize my picked on purpose.
Brian, this is one of the ones for, okay.
I thought y'all might like that.
Go right ahead, Ms. Phillips.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So I am here this afternoon for your, I thought y'all would like that. So I'm here this afternoon to ask for your consideration of a memorandum of understanding between the library and the City of Fayetteville due to a story walk project at Lake Rim Park. Many of you may remember the story walk that was installed in 2020 at Clark Park that you will see on our picture here with our wonderful models. So we are expanding to include Lake Rim Park. For those of you who may not be familiar, a story walk is designed to encourage children and citizens of all ages to read, participate in physical activity, and explore nature. The pages of the story are placed on large panels that are spread throughout the trail or a walking path. Readers are able to read along in the story as they move about the path, and many story walks include suggested physical movements. So the library is going to be partnering with the city, with the Fayetteville Cumberland Parks and Recreation for the installation of the story walk. In the MOU, the city will agree to have the panels installed near the children's playground and will let library staff know if the condition of the panels needs repairing. The city will work with the library on switching out the panels as well as providing space for associated programming and a kickoff celebration. So the library, we will store the panels. We will work with the city to switch out the panels quarterly, so there's always a fresh story there. We will utilize Lake Rim Park to provide literacy programming for children, much like we do at Clark Park. We will plan, execute, and promote a kickoff celebration, much like what was in 2020, of course. And we will support printing of future story panels beyond the grant period. So I would be remiss if I did not take this moment to recognize Carla Brooks, our division manager for programs in the back. So this project is possible through a grant of over $10,000 that Carla found out about applied for and received all within a 2-week period.
So all of this money is ours. They just letting us put it over there.
No, this is, yes, this.
All right, I just wanted to see you know that.
So without Carla, this would not have been possible. So we are excited for this opportunity, and for your consideration of this item. Thank you.
So we can move the panels back and forth rotate them between,
Yes.
yes, okay, that was
Yes.
just one. All righty, thank you. Any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to do the memorandum of understanding between the Cumberland County and the City of Fayetteville and move this to our consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved to second. All those in favor? Thank you. Excellent
Thank you.
job. Excellent job. Thank you. All righty. Madam Manager, that takes us for the formal bid award for the Law Enforcement Center roofing.
Yes, sir, I'm going to recognize our Director of Engineering, Mr. Jermaine Walker.
Leave it on up there, that's fine. Why are you taking my picture there? Got my heart racing. Y'all know I like to take them pictures there. No.
I can.
You get there and there and there. All day. No, we had the roofing.
No, we had the money.
No, we had the roofing.
No, we're not going to talk about,
Jermaine's not going to talk about ARP. He doesn't want to talk about ARP.
But y'all people, y'all talk about me.
good afternoon, Commissioners.
Hold a minute. We're on,
4B.
on B, 4B, the formal bid award for the Law Enforcement Roofing Center that he sent to us. We had it just up under that tab.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this project for your consideration is a follow-up from the county's 2015 roofs survey in which we went through, assessed the roof coverings for all of the county's buildings, and then this particular roof was projected to be replaced sometime around 2024. And so based upon the assessment, and not wanting to wait till the last minute, this project was put out for bid in August of 2022. We received, the bid period closed on September 13th with 7 responses. The lowest responsive and responsible bid came from AAR of North Carolina. And this project was approved in fiscal year 23 as a capital improvement project. We have sufficient funding, and we're asking that AAR's bid be accepted as a responsive bid, and once the project packet passes legal audit and, finance audit and legal sufficiency, that we're able to enter into a contract with AAR.
Don't worry about it. Ms. Vicky gonna make sure I got money for it. If I can entertain a bid for approval of bid award for the Cumberland County Law Enforcement Center roofing project to AAR of North Carolina, and authorize the chairman to execute any documents and move it to the consent agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? All right. That will take us to the formal bid award for the Crown Coliseum Sports Lighting, Park Lot Lighting, Building Control Replacement. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker's going to also cover this item.
So this project was put out to bid, as you can see in your memo, 3 times, but it is a turnkey project. And so what it essentially boils down to is we're replacing antiquated LED fixtures, an antiquated control system, and also upgrading parking lot lighting, which are all essential for the county to provide the type of patron and performer experience that we're looking for moving forward and making the Crown a viable facility.
So we only had one person bid on it?
Yes, sir. I can clarify if you would like.
Yes, it's just kind of interesting that. It's a $711,000 bid. We don't have a one.
So as you can see, it was put out
to bid for several times, and it's because of the complex electronic components. And in the beginning, a number of contractors were afraid that if they bid on this project, they wouldn't be able to fulfill on the back end because of the scarcity of those electronic components just in the current bidding environment.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, sir. And so NGU Sports Lighting, they submitted the qualifying bid. And once again, this project was programmed for fiscal year '23 as a capital improvement project, and we do have sufficient funding to complete this project. And once again, we're just asking that this project be moved forward to the consent agenda. And once the project packet passes finance audit and legal sufficiency, then we'd be allowed to have the chairman execute the contract.
If I can entertain a motion for the approval of the bid award for the Crown Coliseum Sports Lighting, Parking Lot Lighting Building Control Replacement Project based on NGU Sports qualifying bid, and authorize the chairman to execute the documents for legal, after approval for legal sufficiency, and move it to the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would the board consider allowing us to go ahead and hear the Crown Event Center recommendation? We have Rachel Fleming here from MVP, and that might be a shorter presentation than ARP. Would you allow us to go ahead and present that item?
That is fine, because I know she's really right on it and knows how to do it. That's who should be. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Manager. Chairman.
Can you pull that microphone just a little bit closer?
Yes. Is that better?
That's much better.
Excellent. Good afternoon, Rachel Fleming with MVP. I am here today to talk about a couple of updates for the Crown Event Center project. Our very brief agenda, this will go quickly. The main topic of conversation for today is the construction delivery method for this project that we will go through. I can provide a quick update on the architect selection process for this project, and again, a quick update on the site selection process, our one action item that we're asking of the board today, and then give you an idea of the project next steps. The main action item for today is to discuss and vote on the selected project delivery method for this project. The three project delivery methods that we discussed with the Crown Event Center Committee are design bid build, construction manager at risk, and design build. The outcome of the Crown Event Center Committee and their recommendation was to move forward with the construction manager at risk delivery method. I do have a couple of slides that go through the pros and cons if you all would like to go through those or have questions on them. If not, I can open it up for any questions here. The one item I would like to add, earlier this week we did do the shortlist interviews for architects. All the architects we talked with also agreed that the construction manager at risk delivery method was the most appropriate for this type of project that we're looking at.
Thank you. And I will tell the commissioners that there was in-depth discussion by the Crown Committee. They went through it line by line item and came with the unanimous recommendation. I think Commissioner Council chairs that committee. So if I can get a motion to use construction manager at risk, construction delivery for the Crown Event Center.
So moved.
Let me get my mouth open.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's your committee.
Oh, okay. Oh, I am so sorry. I take that back.
No, he doesn't. I second the motion.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? And we'll move that to the consent agenda.
I thought we were-
Thank you, and have a safe trip.
Or did you want to hear about the, just a brief review of the architect selection process?
But they were on my, yes. No,
Very
I'm sorry,
brief.
that's fine. I just didn't see that. Oh, there it is down there. Okay,
Not a problem.
that's my fault. Thank you.
As I mentioned, and we had discussed this before, we did put out the request for qualifications for the architects following the Minnie Brooks Act. We received the responses on October 11th, and the county staff, the selection committee, including MVP and Spectra OVG as non-voting members of that committee, spent the last 2 days together interviewing all of the architects, and will provide a recommendation of the ranking of those shortlisted firms to the Crown Event Center Committee at the meeting next week on the 16th. So we are in the process of developing that ranking to bring to the Crown Event Center Committee meeting.
How many do we get? How many architects just submitted bids and stuff?
We received 11 submissions, and we did 5 shortlist interviews.
Okay,
Yes,
that's fine. I just kind of wondered. Okay.
of course.
So
And
everybody
then,
want to be on this project, huh? There we go.
yes, they were all very excited about the opportunity. Following the Crown Event Center Committee meeting on the 16th, the recommendation from the committee will be moved forward to the full board on your meeting on November 21st. And then we will work with the selected firm to do the contract negotiations upon approval and vote by the board to bring a contract for approval on November 28th. Those are the next steps for architect selection. Any questions? Okay, and just as a brief reminder, I think you all are aware of where we are in the site selection process, so I put an arrow right there. That's where we are today. We are moving forward with some further evaluations. The next step will be for the Crown Event Center Committee to officially select a final site for recommendation to the full board, and then for the full board to make that final selection. And we finished our action item, so that is for today. And the next steps, we just confirmed this morning, we will have a contractor information session on December the 6th, on Tuesday, December the 6th. That's an opportunity for contractors and subcontractors to come together and to form teams in advance of the request for qualifications that will go out for the contractors for the now determined construction manager at risk delivery method, and specifically local contractors as well. Yes. And we did have a member from the NC Hub office who attended the architect information session that we will definitely invite to the contractor information session as well to spread the word to local and hub businesses. Then we will move forward with the contractor solicitation. The next steps, which actually took place 2 days ago, were the shortlist interviews, and then of course continuing with the site selection process.
Have we talked to the entrepreneur over at Fayetteville State? Because, I mean, that's what they do in terms of some of those solicitations, to make sure we include them in those discussions. They have interview rooms and stuff every too. But since we gave them money, we want to make sure we get our use out of it.
That's a great recommendation, and I can get with Jermaine to make sure we get that correct contact information and send them the invitation to the information session. Certainly. That's all I have today.
All right. Thank you so very much. We're getting on schedule, staying on schedule. Madam Manager and I guess Commissioner Council, I guess at some point, according to what we do with the Crown and the theater and all of that, is whatever conversations we might need to put on the agenda as to what happens to those buildings that are there. If we seek not to put it there, we still have those 2 buildings there that, we can't use them for one of them for the purpose that's intended, but I think they're still out. Basically, they're still viable buildings that we can think about. So we just need to put it on some agenda so we can have some kind of conversation and not wait to get behind the 8 ball to be able to do that. So
Yes, sir, and I would recommend that we include Spectra OVG in that conversation, and actually Seth is to your left. And so include them in the conversation as well.
And I would include the agriculture part too, because
Yeah,
they had some issues that, as to storage and some other things. They
Yes,
use it
sir.
for the fair and all of that. So if they can be included in that conversation.
Okay, would you like that at the next agenda session or a little bit later in the year?
Well, instead of bringing it to the agenda session, before we do all that, let's take it to the committee.
Okay,
Because I think the committee can have that discussion as they're talking about doing the building,
Yes, sir.
whatever.
okay,
Because I think it's all part and parcel together.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. That'll take us back up to the ARC committee recommendations.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to recognize our Chief of Staff, Ty Vaught, to present recommendations from the American Rescue Committee. They met last Friday morning, and we want to bring those recommendations forward.
Oh, thanks, Danny. Oh, sorry. Ooh, can't work. There we go. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Here before you, as the managers stated, the ARP committee met last Friday, and we are bringing forward those recommendations from that committee. The first item that we want to bring to you are recommendations in regards to the Small Business Economic Assistance Program. That program, I'll be very brief about my overview. With that program, just wanted to briefly state that at this point, the board has approved 39 applications, and we have moved forward with those funding those contracts, and those have totaled a little over $1.2 million that we've expended or allocated for those applications. Today, we're bringing forward 21 applications for approval, and those total $683,085. And so, if the it's the committee's pleasure to move forward with those recommendations, the total project cost would be $1,947,815, and that would be the final cost for this program. This is the last approval tranche that we're bringing forward to the committee at this time.
But can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Because we all got the same email as to one of the, I just got one, I don't know how many anybody got, as whether there was an appeal process for the denial. That was, and I got stopped by somebody else, but we did get, all the commissioners got at least one email, that one email. I don't know if we heard from other businesses, but is there an appeal process, or did we adequately explain it to them as to why they were denied? Because one of the persons that stopped me as I was getting out of my car said, I just got a thing that says I denied, but anyway.
Yes, sir. I can answer the denial letter portion, and then I will definitely defer to legal with the guidance that they gave the ARP staff committee. Each individual did receive correspondence on why their application was not moved forward. There are 44 individuals who did not receive funding because they did not pass the allowability phase. And so there were three main reasons why someone didn't pass that phase. It was because for-profit, they were a nonprofit, which was not covered under the policy. Their business was created after.
Can I ask one
Yes, sir.
question on that then? And maybe legal can tell me. Do they get to move now if we change the nonprofit? So we can take them out of the denial process or discontinued process, so that number's going to drop.
Yes, sir. And I was going to talk about that one.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But you're a little, yes, sir, you're ahead of me. You're fine.
Into the conversation.
And so the second reason would be that the business was created after March 3rd, 2021, which is set out in the ARPA.
That's a deal.
final rule.
That's just strict.
Yes, sir. And then the third reason would be that they are either a LLC or a corporation, and their business is administratively dissolved through the Secretary of State.
So in the last two, because I'm not trying to think, but the last two, there is no discretion. You're just looking at numbers and looking at that. They're dissolved or they didn't start
Yes, sir.
for that date.
That's an objective
there's no
process.
discretion by anybody with us. That's just straight, you're just looking at straight documents. Okay.
Yes, sir. Those three reasons are very three objective reasons why those 44 were denied. Now there's an additional 56 applications. So 44 of that, and then 56 of that 100 number. Those are folks that they were they may have gone past the allowability phase because they didn't hit those three parameters of why they'd be disqualified or not continued. But there was another reason through further assessing that application of why they wouldn't have been moved forward. And so we took
Give me an example of what that, a couple of examples of what that could be.
after looking at the documents they submitted, we may have determined that the business was a sole proprietor, and the sole proprietor is not a resident of Cumberland County.
That's pretty clear cut.
Yes, sir. There may have
Well,
been.
now, wait a minute, let me ask you a question, because we did have this one question, is that if the business was here and they weren't here, I thought legal said that wasn't a reason to exclude them.
That's correct. That was, you know, the only one I know about, I know we talked about, I thought you were going to follow up with these things.
There were some individuals where there were businesses where the business may be based out of maybe the Charlotte area or a different area, but they have maybe a brick and mortar location here in Cumberland County, and they employ Cumberland County residents. And so if you recall, there's the public purpose part of the ARPA funds. The public purpose is to employ, retain, and hire LMI employees, and those are Cumberland County residents. And so it's difficult when you have a sole proprietor who is not a Cumberland County resident applying the funding, because when they file their tax return, we look at their tax information. That tax information is showing that this individual is not in Cumberland County, and it could be a home-based business as well. And so they don't have a brick and mortar presence here in Cumberland County.
But if they employ somebody from here who's spending some money here, so if they close down that business, that person's unemployed. I don't. That part I don't.
So those individuals were not excluded, because we're looking at that portion, not necessarily the business owner, but there may be some employees here in Cumberland County that they're employing, so they wouldn't be disqualified. I'm talking specifically about those individuals who are sole proprietors, and they are singularly employed by themselves and are not Cumberland County residents.
And they don't do business here. But I mean, if you do business, you're gonna spend some money here. I'm kind of getting.
And so that's why. So we determined that they may be like a home-based business, and they may have claimed their application.
Well, if they're a home-based business, they live here. So I mean, it can't be a home-based business because what?
I'm sorry. I asked you a lot of questions about that some months earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Weeks earlier, and I was impressed with thoroughness. I can't remember all of the details. But, what did I do?
Nothing. You do them right ahead. Get us straight. I'm just trying to.
But there were a lot of reasons why someone was disqualified. In some cases, he didn't say so, but it just flat lied. I said so. But, well,
They exaggerate.
don't tell the truth, you lie. Now, and you spent a whole lot of time, and I talked with you about some of those cases. And I cannot remember the individual ones now, but he went back and forth with me, just like you, Lauren, with trying to figure out why. And that was a very time-consuming process. And some people have a tendency to cover their steps very well. But the end result is.
And if I may, I think, and to that point, to the chairman's point, I think that the staff, as well as the staff committee and the committee, I think the intention was not to try to disqualify anyone. I think, over these last several months, we've tried to reach out to individuals, and if there was an issue, tried to give them the ability to correct the issue. And then some people just were not responsive, or at the end of the day, just did not have the documentation to produce in order to make themselves eligible.
Well, Mr. Chief of Staff, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Chief of staff.
That's it, yeah, it's Chief of Staff, he's Chief of Staff.
Oh, okay. I thought so.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining that, because you're absolutely right. We don't want to overlook as many people as possible that can get the funding, but we also want them to be accurate about the information that they provide for us. But our position is, the board, I do believe, I hope I say this correctly, is that we definitely, like you, will want to be able to make sure that everyone that can get the monies get it. And it's done in a very professional and proper way. And so thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yes, sir.
I think that what Commissioner Adams, where he was getting stuck at, I believe is because you were saying that they didn't live here, but they had brick and mortar here. Is that what you heard? So that's what the confusion was. They would have brick and mortar here, but they didn't, their residents.
And I'm sorry, I may have.
That was what I heard, yeah.
I may have misspoke, and so you may have a owner of a business who is not a resident of Cumberland County, but they do have a brick and mortar presence here. That would not preclude someone from being able to take part in the program.
Okay, that was the confusion.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for clearing that up.
You're
'Cause that's what I heard was that.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That's what y'all always keep me straight, right?
And so, just to
I got one of
finish.
these. I'm good. I got some shit.
Just to finish that point, Commissioners, and so for these recommendations today, that would, there would be a remaining allocation in the small business program of a little over 1.5 million. And so we're presenting those on behalf of the ARP committee. We're presenting those 21 businesses to you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any questions about those businesses.
Thank you. I think the next one, and we'll just take them all together.
Yes, sir,
The
absolutely.
next one was the consideration of the policy revision. I think legal did that. The ARP committee and Ms. Vicki Evans went over that with us to keep us so we don't have a clawback. That was sent to us, and those were all those policy revisions, and we did those out of the committee. And that's again, the policy for record retention. Ms. Evans keeping us in line of how long we have to keep these documents, so there's not a clawback. And she did an excellent job on that. That's just a matter of how long we keep them. But then we will go to consideration of policy 10.1.9, which is the program for COVID assistance to nonprofits. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. As you know, we had previously issued an RFP, and the staff recommended a different route. And that route for nonprofits was to build a business application process for nonprofits to assist those nonprofits who had suffered some pandemic. And so Mr. Vaught has taken the policy that was created for the business application process and made appropriate revisions for it to be applicable to nonprofits, but through a business application process. So the committee had spent quite a bit of time last Friday reviewing that policy. We've incorporated the changes that the committee suggested, and today that revised policy is for the board's approval and consideration.
And Madam Manager, just so we are all on one accord, because again, it's always about who tells the story. The one in the newspapers, we rejected nonprofits, which was not what we did. We just changed the policy, and we're changing the policy basically to be inclusive of these nonprofits. But if everybody remembered, if you looked at that headline, it was out of one of the publications, Cumberland County rejects all nonprofit applications, and that's not what we did.
Actually, the process that the committee is recommending is a much more inclusive process and will open it up to many more nonprofits within our community. And we believe the process will be a more rapid process to get a contract with them and move the funds out.
And I think that one of the conversations out of the committee, so everybody knows we've got it all out there, was that we would go with the nonprofits we already had, but then we may look and if whatever funds left over for other nonprofits, because we have changed it to this, but we didn't want to handicap those that had already applied. So this is a much more inclusive process than what it was. So, that's, I just wanted to make sure we were clear and plain, and if you can kind of put that when our press release go out, because I don't know if y'all got emails, but it was flagged that, y'all are Grinches over there and stole the money from the nonprofits. So that's the only reason I did that. And the last one is the grant project ordinance amendment, which was by Ms. Vicky, which was to make sure that we had to do a grant ordinance to be able to pay out all of these monies and do all of this within finance and the rules set down by the federal government and the state government. Did I say that right?
But, Mr. Chairman, if you-
Well, we're reallocating. We're reallocating within the $65 million allocation that we were provided.
Yes, no, he's talking about something else.
Okay. So this budget ordinance amendment, it incorporates the changes that were made to allow us to do, to be reimbursed for the health insurance costs that were directly related to COVID. It takes the way the funding that was originally allocated to Cape Fear Valley Health for the community paramedics program and the Narcan, and also takes away $2 million for the mortgage assistance and $2.5 million for the first-time home buyers program and the $250,000 from Fayetteville State University. Instead, what we're going to be doing is reallocating those from the category of rehiring public sector staff, and we'll be drawing down funds based on a calculation that Ty had provided, and it'll carry us through 2026. And so as we're able to draw down those funds, it frees up funding to be utilized out of the general fund. And so we're going to be, instead of having the more restrictive requirements of ARPA dollars to provide services for the FSU, and Cape Fear Valley Health for the hospital, we're going to be drawing those funds through general funds, which will ease the administrative burden.
Which is still ARPA funds. Right.
They are ARPA funds, but we're accounting for them in the general fund.
That's correct.
Yes.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments? If not, I will take a motion to approve the small business funding recommendation, consideration of the ARPA policy revisions, consideration of the policy for record retention of the ARPA and SLFR funds, and the consideration for the program for the COVID-19 assistance to nonprofits, and the ARPA grant project ordinance amendment B230001. I can get that motion.
So moved.
I can get a second. It's been moved and second. All those in favor? And sometimes I just don't pay attention, but we do have the future interim county manager, Ms. Pascal here. Thank you. Not trying to put you on the spot, but I know you, have been around some of the counties working with ARPA funds, and I think you see where we are. And just for your, for us to know, are we online or ahead of some other counties or whatever, if you know?
Well, I can only speak to the experience in Wake County. I know that the county initially started with 68 nonprofits and ended up having to use another revenue source for most of them. Only 10 were able to utilize the ARPA funds because the administrative requirements were so onerous.
Out of the 68, so even in Wake County, they ran into the same issue that we ran into. Okay, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
All right, now, Madam Manager, that takes us to the competitive grant update.
Yes, sir.
We moved from where we were, not going all the way back, but on some of those grants, but yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I've asked Ms. Shutt to give a brief update. We're trying to keep a good record of what we've applied for, what we've received, and then future grants that we want to apply for. We think it's important to continue to bring this update back to the board, so I'll turn this over to Ms. Shutt.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'll be very brief. We're going to give you an overview of the recent notifications, submissions, and then upcoming applications. In our area of justice services, we received notification of a grant of $393,000 from the BJA. This is for it's an adult drug court discretionary grant. It's for 4 years. It'll be used for sobriety court, specifically related to DWI. The sheriff's office was notified of the burn grant for $182,000. We split 50-50 with the city of Fayetteville. And just yesterday, our solid waste department was notified that they've received the North Carolina Phase 2 Volkswagen Mitigation Program grant. If you'll recall, we had applied for that. It's about $300,000 to replace 6 diesel fleet trucks.
Are they going green with that? What we gonna do? Is that
We're doing our best, sir. We're doing our best. We're leaving that one.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. In the area of infrastructure, 2 of the projects that we put forward for the building infrastructure and communities grant process, we did the letter of intent, and then we've been invited to proceed to the next phase of that. Those 2 grants are due November 18th. One is an emergency debris management and solid waste plan in the area of capacity, capability and capacity building, and then the Norcrest sewer system improvements. Recent submissions, back on September 30th, we submitted several grants to DEQ. One is the landfill leachate treatment. And these are resubmissions. This is for the fall cycle. Remember, if you'll recall, back in the spring cycle, we had submitted several grants, and we're resubmitting for the fall cycle. Landfill gas collection and treatment improvements for $1.8 million. A water supply feasibility study for Gen X response. That is a planning grant for $400,000. Landfill sediment ponds 1 and 2. We did receive a loan in the spring cycle. We are reapplying and hoping to make that a grant. And then the Norcrest project, the sewer project, we have an application that was there in the spring round, is being reconsidered. So, FAMPO, Fayetteville Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, plans to partner in the Engaging North Carolina Rural and Underserved Communities and Transportation Carbonization Project. That's $65,000 in federal funding, and they'll be doing community engagement and outreach activities. And then opioid-related funding, there was a grant. Cumberland was one of 19 counties eligible for the Prevent Prescription Drug and Opioid Overdose-related deaths. Insight Services, which is one of the 501c3s, accredited nonprofits that provides prevention services in Cumberland County. They are a partner in our Cumberland Fayetteville opioid response team. They did submit an application for that funding to come back into Cumberland County. And our health department, Dr. Green had presented the opioid settlement plan, and if you'll recall, you had allocated funding for the purchase of Narcan. So they are applying for matching funds for that for $70,000 for Narcan and syringe service programs through NC Harm Reduction. That grant's due November 15th. And then finally, an Office of Rural Health Community Health Grant. They're seeking funding for the adolescent parenting program. That funding had ended back in 2020. They've been using other funding. They're seeking that grant, and that's due the 2nd of December. And then United Way. Our federal team mentioned about farmers markets. So our health department is going to be applying with the United Way of Cumberland County through their Food Policy Council, which our board had established, to support a local farmers in accepting WIC at the farmers market. So they're looking to do that. And then I want to end on some really good news, is that our new grants manager is scheduled to join our team on November 28th. So I think opportunity to do grants.
Can I ask, because we had the one for the EV, where are we at on that?
The electric vehicles?
Didn't we get to be able to install some of those? Where are we at on?
On the project.
So that was one of the ones we got approved for.
And I need to check with our internal services.
I can give you a quick update. So it was $10,000. The county's been awarded that, and they're going to put a couple of charging stations in front of the courthouse.
In the front parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Well, okay, that's fine, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, that works for us. I mean, it's the easiest one, that's where the public uses a lot, and in the evening, that's where people come, and it's downtown, so, all right, thank you. All right, thank you very much. Now, you want to be surprised, thank you.
He already is.
I didn't know. I don't have I don't have an electric car, so, I have to pay that gas price. Guys, Bid Tab Award, we had lunch from them yesterday.
And it was good. It was good. It's really good. They are good. They're group of people.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As you know in your packet, the current franchise agreement is going to expire December 2022, and the county purchasing staff has issued an RFP and received one proposal, and that's from the current franchisee. That proposal was posted for 36 days and advertised on normal sites, state and local procurement websites. This proposal has been reviewed and meets the requirements specified in the RFP, which includes criteria that are specific to experience, financial history, menu and pricing, and insurance coverage. Staff recommends the bid award go to Go Enjoy Restaurants, doing business as Happy Deli. That's at 2 locations here in the county, which is, of course, here at this courthouse and at the Department of Social Services. And request this be moved forward to the November 21st, 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting as an item of business for the first of 2 readings. And I'll try to answer any questions you have.
And so the request is to move this forward to item of business for the commissioners meeting for November the 21st for the first reading, and a second reading, if that one passed, on December the 19th, 2022. If I can get a motion?
So moved.
And if I can get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All of those in favor? All right, thank you. And also on the other items, I think we needed to, Madam Manager, have Ms. Vicki update us as to the 2022 audit, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all don't have all that on the computer. You approved the agenda. Y'all approved my agenda, all kind of stuff on there.
Thank you for allowing me to do this. So if you'll recall, last year our audit was conducted by Elliott Davis. They quit. We submitted they quit on us on their second year, or resigned. And we then did an RFP for audit services, which resulted in Cherry Beckert conducting our audit. Cherry Beckert is short-staffed, and they are way behind with our audit and producing the audit schedules, which we contract with them to do that part. They have not provided me with an audit schedule at all. And so in comparison to previous years, we would have had this at least a month and a half ago. And so I wanted to make you aware of this so that you're not caught off guard. According to the LGC, audits are due by October 31st of each fiscal year. We have rarely met that cutoff. They do a grace period through December 1st, and any audit submitted after December 1st require a contract extension that gets approved by the governing board. And so we're at the point now where I think it is very unlikely that we'll have a report by December 1st, which will then result in a contract extension having to be approved. And so I wanted to let you know where we're at. I honestly feel like it's something that's out of my control. For this year anyway, as far as putting precautions or steps in place to prevent this from happening next year, we'll be prepared to write our own report. So, but for this year, we do not have the resources or tools available to us at this time.
I guess I would ask, have they started, I guess?
So they
Because
have.
if not, is whether we can do another I don't know. I'm looking at y'all recommendation from staff because y'all tell us what we need to do.
They have.
But whatever makes your life
Yes.
easier to meet those deadlines, You tell us.
They have definitely started on the audit. They are nearly complete with the single audit testing. The hiccup has been the actual report and providing the schedules that actually go into the report, that part of it. They're having technical issues with the data that was provided to them from Elliott Davis and reconciling those amounts back to the audit that we had in 2021. Our staff have assisted them with getting the 2021 reconciliation balanced, and so they have that done now. Now they're pulling in our trial balance for 2022 and are working on producing those reports.
Have we done this or can we do this? Is to send a letter to Terry Becker saying, we understand that the last people resigned and it created this confusion. And if you could tell us what the hiccups are so that we got a letter back from them that they were short-staffed, that they had difficulties dealing with the other, getting those reports. I think that helps so that we have a paper trail and not just talking to folk.
Okay.
So, they just had some roadblocks, and if they can just say, these are the roadblocks we had, it's really nobody's fault, but it's just the way of the world now. But I think if we have that documentation, it just makes it easier when LGC or whoever comes and looks and says, from 5 years from now or 10 years from now, why did y'all miss this? There's some paperwork. We all may know, but if there's not the documentation and some paperwork, people don't really understand it.
I'll do that. I'll have them put it in writing.
Does
Yes,
that
sir.
make sense?
Yes, sir, that's an excellent idea.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, all righty. Then that will take us, Madam Manager, I sent a letter to the city with regard to our landfill and the life of the landfill, and we've been updated. If you can give us an update on where we are on the landfill.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to give an update. As you know, we've had discussion for some time now regarding our remaining landfill life. And currently at the Ann Street landfill, we have less than 8 years of landfill life remaining. Now, 8 years sounds like a long time, but when it comes to constructing or expanding sales or finding another avenue to dispose of your municipal solid waste, 8 years is a very brief amount of time. And so I'm sorry.
So, and that's just not the county. It's the county's landfill that we run, but this includes all of the municipalities and that are coming and bringing their trash to this landfill.
You're correct, Mr. Chairman. This is a community issue.
Right.
We operate the Ann Street landfill, but we operate it from a community-wide perspective for the city of Fayetteville, our rural customers, and all the municipalities. So the impacts of the 8-year limited life is not just an impact of the county. It affects the entire community.
And so I'm just trying to make sure we get there. So, most people will say, well, if you land on the landfill, just stop taking everybody else's trash. We don't have that ability to do that, and that's not necessarily best for the community.
That's correct. And so we're really left with two options. And the two options that we've identified, one is to expand the footprint of our current Ann Street landfill. There is available land behind the current Ann Street landfill, but we do not own that land.
And that's the letter that requested from this board over to the city to be able to use or obtain that for the life of this landfill for the entire community.
Yes, sir. If we could expand onto the city-owned property and do some mining within a previous bell fill, we believe we can add 50 years of capacity, disposal capacity to our current Ann Street landfill.
You said 50 years?
50
From 8
years.
years to 50 years?
Yes, sir, 50 years. And so, if we're not able to obtain that piece of property, our only other option is to haul our trash, transfer it, haul it to another regional landfill. There's a regional landfill about 25 miles away, but that is not a long-term option. The next closest landfill would be about 80 miles away.
So the one that's 25 miles away, they've got to be reaching the same kind of capacity that we have. And if it was me, I wouldn't be bringing somebody else's trash here. So we're looking, let's be realistic, we're looking at the longer one, right?
Yes, sir. Really, our projections, and that's what we're trying to do. Because we haven't been able to expand or make plans to expand our current landfill, Mr. Chairman, we're actually going to Plan B. And Plan B, I have asked our General Manager for Natural Resources, Amanda Botter, to put out 2 requests for proposals. The first one would be to build a transfer station, and that is a capital expenditure to transfer the solid waste onto a large truck to send it out of the community, 80 to 100 miles away. The second RFQ is the cost to actually truck the trash there and then to pay the cost of disposable, none of which we have any control over. And that cost is predicated on economic conditions. You know that diesel fuel prices have soared in the last year, and there's been discussions of a shortage. We've done a cost analysis. The cost analysis indicates that it would cost us anywhere from $75 to $95 a ton to actually haul our trash out of county. We lose control, not having access here in our community. We believe that additional cost is probably about $10 million, Mr. Chairman. And the county, currently, it's in an enterprise fund. And so for an enterprise fund under GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board, an enterprise fund has to take in enough revenue to cover all of their cost, which means those costs are passed to the community, to the citizens. The citizens currently pay a household user fee that pays for the disposal in our landfill. We believe that there would be we know there will be a significant increase. But I guess one of the things that I wanted to tell the board today is we need to go ahead and start planning in this upcoming budget year, in fiscal year 2024, planning and start increasing the household fee to all Cumberland County residents, including the municipalities, to help pay for the transfer station and to be prepared for eventually for all of our waste to be disposed of 80 to 100 miles away from our community.
Make sure I understand this. So is that $10 million per year?
Yes, that would be annually.
So on top of what we already spent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so $10 million on top of that. Just trying to do some math in my head here. So it's an enterprise fund. If we have to transport this out of the county, is it then still going to stay in the enterprise fund? Because that is we're not really doing it. It's somebody else. I mean, the 10 million is the 10 million. It's just a matter of however you do it. But you still got to operate that landfill to make sure it doesn't burn up and all of that stuff.
Well, but everything will still go to the landfill.
Right.
So
Okay.
we will have a scaled down staff.
Right.
We will not have as many staff members. We'll still operate the Wilkes Road landfill. We'll still have a C&D construction and demolition area, but all the trash will come in the gates of Ann Street, be transferred to larger vehicles to transport it. So we will still have cost, and it will still be in the enterprise fund and has to be self-sustaining.
Well, let me ask you this question. What happens if I only do my trash from the unincorporated area until everybody else they have to take care of their own trash? Can I do that? So each municipality in the city of Fayetteville have to dispose of their trash the best way they can. I mean, it's not optical, but is that an option?
It is an option to consider. But there's implications to every option, but yes, it is an option.
And I do understand, though, the question then becomes, I guess, it may not be an option because the landfill sits inside the city of Fayetteville. And I do understand that because it's a intermunicipality, will we still be operating the landfill or will we just be doing the transfer? Because it makes a difference, because if we're going to do the landfill, you have that issue with being inside the municipality.
I'm not an attorney.
Right.
But we still would have the construction and demolition area, so there would still be some disposal at Ann Street landfill. So the answer to that is I think we would still have to have a franchise agreement with the city of Fayetteville.
Right, gotcha, okay. All right. And so the fees now that we charge is, I don't know if Mr. Jackson knows that, you know, if you don't, that's fine. I mean, we haven't raised some of our fees.
I think it's $56 a year, I think. My budget.
$56. Isn't that kind of low for everybody that's around us?
It's extremely low. We are the lowest in the region and probably one of the lower ones in a fee perspective across the state. We have some contiguous counties that are upwards of $100.
Commissioner Stewart.
You talked about the fees increasing significantly. We're already at the bottom when it comes to fees. Would those fees supersede the fees of those that are around us? Because we're already low.
I think that would be, we're in the process now of looking at the fees, comparing them to if we expand the landfill and if we actually have to dispose in another county, how that looks in comparison to other counties. So I'm not prepared today to give you that kind of detailed information, but yes, ma'am, we are working on that particular analysis.
I just think that it's unfortunate if we have possibly go to the option that we have to go to, because those that are affected are the citizens of Cumberland County. And if we, in any way, shape, or form, can do something else, I know that we will do something else. I just hope that I just think it's unfortunate for the citizens of Cumberland County.
I do, and I think it's the piece of property that's contiguous that we need is owned by the city of Fayetteville, and I think it's, sometimes you look at what's best for the community, and it would be truly my hope that we can't wait for so long, and I think that's one of the issues that we have, and we may have to move forward on some of that, and that's just a cost, but hopefully, the letter that I sent, we have some kind of a response to it. If not, I think Commissioner Keith was right. Whether we put a deadline, we've got to know by this date, because I think Ms. Barnett, Amanda said that we can't wait but so long. I mean, otherwise it becomes even more costly to do it. And we've got planning. Commissioner Evans.
I was just thinking about it, and this is one time that we always, that everyone wants to know about the city and the county working together for the betterment of our community. And this is one time we hope that the city will step up to the plate and make this happen for us. I'm trying to grasp, and I'm not understanding, to be totally honest about it, what kind of reflection would this put on our taxpayers?
That's what she was trying to.
Yeah, I still I hadn't grasped.
But she don't know the amount, but it's going to go up. We only at 50-something now. I'm going to just tell you, she's not going to take, because she's going to want to guess. But we're going to be well over $100. They're going to go up well over that, because that's where most people are already. And so then we have to pick up $10 million on top of that. Mm-hmm. So you see where we're going.
Well, and that's, as our Vice Chairwoman has said, it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that we're at this point where we don't know.
Yes, sir.
Which direction we're going to take. And we definitely need the city help with this. And so I'm hoping that listening audience that's listening to us, that we talk to a city council representative and tell them, this is one time that we need to work together.
So either option, there's a cost to expanding the landfill, but there's a much greater cost, twice the cost, if we actually have to truck it to another community. So our fees are going to go up, but the question is, how high are they going to have to go up? The best thing from a community-wide perspective is to expand on the current landfill site onto adjacent property and continue to utilize the infrastructure there at the landfill that the citizens has already invested in.
Well, and I think it's, we know that there's, for instance, the storm that's coming through this weekend. If you talk about trucking stuff somewhere and all the hurricanes that we got, it makes it a double edge. 'Cause I think they got tornado warnings even over here during this weekend. Y'all on Friday, y'all be safe now. But that's even more of a cost because you're either going to have to hold on to some of this stuff or truck some of this stuff. And we're at the behest of wherever we take it as to whether they open or don't open or how fast they open. Commissioner Council.
It has been my experience, unfortunately, that every time we reach out all
Use your microphone. Well, anyway.
I think we got a bleep system.
Brian, hit that beat button.
every time we send out an olive branch to the city of Fayetteville, they give us a kiss my foot response. You sent a letter October the 5th, wasn't it?
I sent 2 letters, yes, I sent 2. One to the mayor and then one to the entire council.
Entire council.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I think we need to start looking at what the manager said. We need to go ahead and start. We need to do something now.
And I think the staff is. I think the staff is moving forward. Hats off to Ms. Amanda for being proactive on this. And I agree with you, Commissioner Council. I think staff is preparing for the worst. You hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. And so I think they've got some things moving forward. She just wanted to update us all as to where we were.
And Mr.
Give me an
Moore,
example, please,
like an example?
of one project that we talked about working together on that has come to fruition. I just want one. All right, I changed my mind.
The one thing I did want to add was, Mr. Moorfield just pointed out that this is going to be extremely expensive for City of Fayetteville residents, and thank you for bringing that to my attention. The city has a fee for solid waste for those that live and reside within the City of Fayetteville. They're projecting significant increases for city residents, and this on top of it.
Oh, on top of it, before we even do anything else.
Yes.
Mr. Moorfield.
Well, the current city fee is $225.
And ours is how much?
They said
56.
And theirs is how much?
$225, and the proposal is to increase it by 25% through 2027. But I don't think people understand or appreciate how much of an impact having a transfer of this is going to cost everyone. And Mr. Chairman, to your point about the franchise fee or requirement by being in the city, we can much more readily locate a transfer station outside of a city than we can this landfill. So there, we still have that as a backup.
Because we do have the others.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Edmonds.
And this kind of bothers me. I'm a resident of the city of Fayetteville as well. But I think about those individuals that are still trying to pay a $5,000 assessment out in the western part of Fayetteville for the sewer water lines that have not been connected. And then you're talking about this. It's kind of disheartening to know that we cannot get the cooperation of other local leaders here in our community to help our citizens. When we campaign day to day for office, to have individuals to vote for us, we said that we're going to take care of you. that we're going to work hard for you. We're going to make sure that everything is good for you. This is not an example of being good to our citizens. And so I really hope that the citizenry that's listening to this will get mad as hell and go ahead and say something to their commissioner, to their council members about this, because it's frustrating. It's frustrating and it's aggravating. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Usually have to beat people with that, but, thank you, Madam Manager. We do understand the urgency and the need, and, hopefully we'll get some response in the very near future. We had monthly reports that were sent to each one of us. I don't think anybody has any questions about that. Madam Manager, have anything else that, for the good of this society?
No, sir, not today. Thank you.
All righty.
I move that we adjourn.
It's, got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.